Hello, my dear students. How are you? I hope you're doing fine today. We are now in the illustrative example of finding the slope given 2 points. So, for our first example, we have two coordinates 2, 4, and 4, 6. To find the slope, we need to identify the x value or abscissa and the y values or ordinates. So, we have x sub 1 and y sub 1 and x sub 2, y sub 2. So following along the pattern, we have 2 comma 4 and 4 comma 6. Based upon this pattern, we have x sub 1 is equals to 2 and y sub 1 equals to 4. And x sub 2 is 4, y sub 2 is 6. You might be asking, is this important, sir? The answer is always yes. We need to have this one in order for us not to be confused in the substitution of the values of x and y respectively in the slope formula. So, since we have these values, we are now ready to substitute this into the slope formula. So, we have the slope is equals to the change in y, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1, as shown in the previous video, all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, which is now the change in x. So substituting its values, we have y sub 2 is equals to 6 minus, okay, just tag along ha, ito yon negative, and y sub 1 is 4, all over x sub 2, which is 4, minus x sub 1, which is 2. So, we have to simplify. 6 minus 4 is just 2, and 4 minus 2 is also 2. So dividing 2 divided by 2, we have the slope equal to 1. And note, since the slope is positive, the line is leaning towards the right. Next example, we have negative 3, which is found in quadrant 2, and 1 comma 3, which is found in quadrant 1. So for example number 1, these points or coordinates are found in quadrant 1. So why do we need to have this? Okay, just tag along. Following the same pattern, we have negative 3 is x sub 1 and 4 is y sub 1. And the second coordinate is x sub 2 is 1 and y sub 2 is 3. So the same, this is x sub 1 negative 3, y sub 1 is 4, and x sub 2 is 1, and y sub 2 is actually equal to 3. So you might be wondering, why do you keep on repeating, sir? So this is now the crucial part, because based from the two examples, in the first example, we don't have positive, we don't have a negative value. All of these values are positive. While in the second example, we have a negative value. So you must be very careful in substituting the value in the slope formula. So, following y sub 2 minus y sub 1, which is the change in y, all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, which is the change in x. In substitution, we have y sub 2 is 3, no problem. Then, follow minus sign. Y sub 1 is 4. For the denominator, we have, be careful of this. X sub 1 is, x sub 2 I mean is 1. Minus, okay, you must be very careful. X sub 1 is negative. So instead of writing 3, you must have to place a parenthesis or enclose a parenthesis the negative 3. O, ito na yon. Ha? So kung titingnan natin, 1 is x sub 2, which is correct. And then followed by minus, and since x sub 1 is negative 3, we are going to enclose negative 3 in a parenthesis as a rule, so that we will not commit any mistakes. Kadalasan kasi dito nadadali ang mga estudyante. Madali lang 'to, kaso 'pag makalimutan mong isulat ang -3, mag-iiba na talaga yung sagot mo. So, simplifying further, 3 minus 4 is -1. 1 minus -3 is actually 1 plus 3. Based upon the rules of sign, no? Pag kasunod to, nagiging positive. So, simplifying further, the slope is now equal to negative dahil negative at ito sa denominator, positive to. So, dividing integers, if one is positive and the other is negative, the result is always negative. So, we have -1 all over 4. Ito talaga yung proper writing of simplifying, no? Dapat ang negative sign nasa center. So, note, since the slope is negative, the line is leaning towards the left. So, take note of this, ha? The difference. Ito talaga ang dapat niyong pagtinginan ng pansin, no? Hindi kayo dapat nagkakamali dito upon the substitution. So, just tag along. Dapat hindi kayo magmamadali. For the third example, we have all of the coordinates are found in the quadrant 3. Okay, negative lahat, oh. So, in the solution, you just tag along. -1, negative 4, -1. And x sub 2 is -1 and -1. So, you must be very careful, oh, dahil paulit-ulit lumalabas yung -1. So, ito yung pinaka-importante. Medyo liliit ito, ha, dahil sa negative sign. X sub 1 is -4, y sub 1 is -1, and x sub 2 is -1, and y sub 2 is also -1. So, napaka-importante nito. This is very important. That's why we need to indicate the values of x and y respectively, no? So, following along the slope formula, we have y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So, ano yung y sub 2? -1. Tapos, minus. And y sub 1 is still -1. So, we are going to enclose -1 in a parenthesis. All over x sub 2, which is still -1, minus. Okay, ito na yan, minus. X sub 1 is still -4, so we are going to enclose it in a parenthesis. So, simplifying, we have -1 plus 1 all over -1 plus 4. Now, notice, upon the example, we have the same y value. We have the same ordinate. If we have the same ordinate, ito talaga yung mangyayari. So, we are going to add different signs. And since they have the same number, 1 minus 1 is 0. No? Adding different signs, we have to subtract the number following the bigger value minus the smaller value and then copy the sign of the bigger value. But since they have the same value, so magiging neutralized yan. So, this will become 0 all over negative or positive 3. No, not negative. 0 over positive 3. And simplifying further, 0 divided by any number is actually, the slope is 0. So, note, since the slope is 0, the line is parallel to x-axis. So, magiging 0 ang slope kapag, una, ang linya ay parallel sa x-axis, or simply, if given the coordinates, if they have the same y value. On the fourth and last example, we have the first coordinate is in quadrant 1 and the second coordinate is in quadrant 4. So notice that the example number 4, we have the same x value. So ito, ang number 3, same y value. So ano mangyayari? So, the same pa rin ang solution, no? Ang steps. Identify x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. We have 3 and 3. We have 3, -2. And x sub 1 is equal to 3. Y sub 1 is still 3. X sub 2 is 3. And y sub 2 is -2. So, So again, we must be careful of the signs here. So following along the slope formula, we have y sub 2 minus y sub 1, or the change in y, all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, or the change in x. Substituting its values, y sub 2 is negative 2 minus y sub 1, which is 3, and, or all over, x sub 2 is 3 minus x sub 1 is 3. Okay, ito yung mangyayari pag the same ang x value. So, for the numerator, we have negative 5. Kasi pareho silang negative eh. Divided by 3 minus 3 is 0. And we know that a number divided by 0 is always undefined. We learned this one in rational expressions. And take note, since the slope is undefined, the line is parallel to y-axis. Okay, that would be all. And I hope, guys, that you will be able to understand the means of finding the slope given 2 points. Now, you notice in your module that the authors of the module is showing to you an illustration of a picture of a car and then a road, no? So, for the first example, the line is leaning towards the right, so that's positive. Second example is the car is going to the left, that's negative. And then for the third example, ito, the car is actually running in a smooth, no? Nasa patag. Okay, because the slope is 0. Ito naman, for the fourth example, yung car ay parang nahuhulog. So imagine, yung engineer, sinabi ko sa previous na video, slope is very important to engineers. Why? Because in constructing roads, especially civil engineers, they are going to consider this extensively in constructing roads. So walang inhinyero na gagawa ng daan na parang pader. Dahil hindi talaga makakadaan yan. Babangga yan. Or pag galing sa ibabaw, mahuhulog naman. Okay? So, yun lang po. So, sana may natutunan kayo sa ating video na to. God bless us all.